Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Seasigners podcast. No intro music because I've been told it keeps knackering and breaking. So what we're doing this evening, going over more of the same as Stephen Dobbie presided over another insipid performance. Baffling team selections as Blackpool maintain their embarrassing away form this season at Stockport. 0 points, 1 goal, now 4 points, adrift off the League One relegation zone. Only Richie can save us now, or will it be an other? On the panel this evening are Tim and Nick. Welcome to everyone on the channel. Thanks for joining us. And I'm going to start the show with some stats, Jen. In the style of someone making a point at the dispatch box at the House of Commons. 4 points from safety, having played one more game. 13 points from the playoffs. 17 points from first place. 0 away wins. 1 goal scored away from home. XG table, bottom. Clean sheets table, bottom. And many more. So that's your new intro, everybody. Hope you enjoyed it. Nick, how are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I can't say I was massively looking forward to doing this. It's a lot easier when you're winning, isn't it? But we will whiz through it and then move on, I think.
Tim, how are you doing?
Not so bad. Well, I was feeling okay until you just gave me that load of stats. You could probably add we must be down as for the least number of goals scored away from home in history. One in 6 games. And I was actually there to see the momentous occasion when we were already 3-0 down to the team with the lowest budget in the league. So it was hardly a goal to celebrate either, bearing in mind the score at the time. So, yeah, it's a hard time to be a Blackpool fan at the moment, I think. It's a hard watch, isn't it? And, listen, we've been in worse situations as a football club, but actually watching the football on the field has become a torturous exercise. And I think even the most optimistic amongst us are struggling. I don't hold myself out in that category, but there's people out there like Dave Hart who travel up and down the country and always present a very optimistic view. But I think everybody is losing the will to live with the way our football team are playing at the moment.
Well, new start, new manager, Stephen Dobbie coming in. We all thought it was a renewal, fresh start, new manager bounce, away at Stockport. Loads of Blackpool fans there. A roof over the old away end to generate a bit of atmosphere. Many pillars. And then Dobbs dropped this on us. The starting 11. Obviously in net. Coulson left back, Casey Heckway. No horsefall against his former club. Lions. This is the kicker. Morgans and Evans as the 2 in midfield. Bowler on the right, Hamilton on the left. Taylor and Fletcher up front. Surely, Nick, he was going to abandon the 4-4-2 being Stephen Dobbie.
Well, we all thought so, didn't we? We were sat in a nice beer garden in the sun, waiting for the team to come out. And again, none of us were thinking, he's had a week to work with him, so we weren't expecting miracles. But I honestly thought everything seemed to be pointing towards we would at least have a different formation. And then as we looked at it and started to work it out, and it was, why is Brown on the bench? The horsefall, I mean, like I said, I think on the last pod, Ihekwe and Kate, certainly Ihekwe had a lot steadier in the last couple of games. But to drop Brown for Evans in a 2 was the real head scratcher for me. And, Dobbie's obviously been stood on the sideline all season and has seen how that, hasn't worked in the majority of games. So it was a bit of a weird one. And the only thing I can think is maybe he felt he hadn't had enough time with them to completely change the formation and the system. But I still don't get how he thought Evans in there ahead of Brown was the better option. It was Yeah, and it just left us all feeling a bit flat when we were all feeling quite optimistic, if not necessarily expecting a win, but probably, like you say, a bit of new hope, and it wasn't going to be more of the same. And you might as well have had Steve Bruce in the dugout for that first half with the team we picked and the way we played. So yeah, it was it was certainly a bit disappointing when I saw that lineup.
That's to put it mildly. I think, Tim, your thoughts when that dropped?
Yeah, I mean, I've seen Bison just says in the chat it was a 4-2-3-1 and with Fletcher playing as a 10. And I know that I think there's an interview that's given, I'm not sure we've seen it, apparently, where Dobbie says Fletcher's, I did change it, Fletcher was a 10. But for me, if it look, what's the expression? If it looks like a duck and quacks like a duck, it's a duck. And it looked very much like the 4-4-2 duck to me. And at the end of the day, forget about the intricacies of the formation as to whether there was a slight tweak or not. For me, not to play, we had the forgot his name now, the Stockport lad on, didn't we? Was it Thursday night, Friday night? Mike. And you hear about him talking about how good Horsfall was, and Tom had a Stockport fan on his pod, and I think similar observations were made. He's in the League One play Team of the Year last year, and then not to play him against his own club when he's going to be so up for it. I don't get. You can accommodate all three of them. Just change the back four to a back three, and then your answer's solved. And then not to play Brown when Brown was arguably one of the best players in the last game, again, just defies logic. It's just, don't get it. Dobbie had a free hit, and they are a couple of changes that, and Hansen arguably is another, that make a lot of sense. And if it didn't work, it didn't work. But just for me, he rinsed and repeated, and everybody we were sat in a lovely bar. It's one of those, again, away games. It was for those that went, lovely day. You sat outside the pub, but as soon as you walk into the ground, your day's going downhill, and it, just like Exeter, just like plenty of other games we've been to, this is exactly what happened, because the football, particularly the first half, was absolutely shocking, and it's the system. It's the system that we're playing, not helped by we'll come to the players, because I don't think the players get off scot-free with this. But for me, as soon as everybody saw that team, there was like a collective, because it wasn't what we're expecting. We thought he would shake it up, and he didn't.
Nick, as Tim said, Brown, probably our standout player of the season, arguably one of our most consistent players. For him to be benched, it was just gobsmacking to me. And Bowler should be dropped, and I don't think he should be anywhere near the first team at the moment. He's just so far off the pace.
He is, and I think it's maybe just a case of sort of needs must to a degree with what we've got with injuries. But yeah, I really don't get the Brown one. Norwood, had the run of the show in that first half. I think someone said in one of the comments, that probably wouldn't have happened if he had Brown on him. And Norwood's just pinging the ball all over the park.
Ran the show,
yeah,
didn't he?
Out wide. They had men over. It looked like they had an extra man for most of that first half, and it was almost an exercise in attack and defence, because we did well in terms of clearances, getting a head in, getting a leg in, or whatever, but it just came straight back. We were barely able to retain possession for more than probably 5 seconds at a time before, we don't win second balls. So it just becomes this wave after wave of pressure. And again, but for some poor finishing and a decent save from Ravazzoli, I know we created a very good chance, but we could. I was just watching the highlights again before, and for that first 15 minutes,
could have been 3-0 down.
I was going to say they could have gone 2 or 3 up inside the first quarter of an hour, and we've just seen it time and time again this season. So, yeah, just another frustrating away day, unfortunately.
Tim, let's touch on the away end. Great atmosphere, which was much improved by the new canopy. It can be best described as put above us. Do you take the increased in atmosphere as a positive, as more positive than the actual view from the stand? I know there was a lot of stanchions there. I think people make a bit much about it. I mean, you move your head and you can see the game pretty well, can't you? So I think I'd prefer that to be there than not be there, to be honest.
Listen, it's a temporary solution, and because I think they've got some long-term plans, haven't they, to develop that stand a little bit. I think to sort of mirror the other end, the Cheadle end, it's called, I think, the other end. And I thought, at the end of the day, they're thinking of fans, aren't they? It's a long winter, and going into an open stand, it's all right. Listen, it would have been other than it would have been a rather flat atmosphere, with as it was last year with no roof on at all. It was a nice sunny day, and it's not a problem. But obviously, in the northwest of England, that's not a regular occurrence, is it? So listen, it's a temporary solution. For those who weren't there, it is like a canvas roof stretched over that Meccano style roof structure. But it does a job, and I think it did. Listen, the atmosphere wasn't brilliant, was it, in the away end, because of the feast of football that was served up for us. But when on the few occasions we were stirred into life and to get behind the teams, particularly towards the end of the game, it did definitely improve the atmosphere without a shadow of a doubt. So if we were playing as we should have been playing and be in the game and creating chances and playing good football, then I think it would have been a fantastic atmosphere.
But yeah, your thoughts on the first half, Tim? Nick's obviously touched on the terrible start. One fine save from Ravizoli from the free kick. The free kick given to Lee against Lee Evans, which I thought was really harsh. He's about to get a ball absolutely leathered at his head, point blank range. He just gets out of it last way, back turned, ball hits his hand, and he's giving away a free kick in a dangerous situation. And Ravizoli passed the test for me in that first half, but the one thing about him, I thought his distribution was very poor as well. I
think that's a feature generally of our goalkeepers, isn't it? I think you don't get beyond the CV stage unless you can give the ball to the opposition more often than you give it to our own team. As many, I struggled. I'm going right back, I think, to think of a keeper who had some decent distribution for us. Probably as far back as Gilt. Yeah, it was a difficult first half. I know you've got the XG there as 0.08. I heard somebody say in the first half it was as low as 0.01 in the first half, and obviously the improvement in inverted commas comes as a result of our little rally in the second half when we actually did change the way we play a bit. But it was painful. It's up there with one of the worst halves of football that I can recall, and there's a lot of them. But it was just the lack of. We had the one chance, didn't we, that fell to Taylor. The one thing Bowler probably did all game was put him through with that chance, and I think that's the incident the way he ends up injuring himself. So quite what he's done as he's tried to kick the ball, he seems to have done his hammy in at the same time. So it beggars belief. And we'll maybe at the end we'll go into the reasons why we think we're picking up all these injuries. But again, through this game we picked up 2, maybe 3 injuries again, just to add to the huge list of people who are already not playing. But that was the one, for whether he's I've not seen. Unfortunately, I've not had the opportunity to watch it back. But I don't know whether he stubs his.
Just kind of scuffed the shot. It didn't connect well with the shot, and
it's not a strike. A striker would have had that buried in the corner, wouldn't he? And he hits it straight at the keeper. If he'd hit it anywhere else than where he hit it, he'd have had a good chance of scoring the goal. And so it just reinforces. We've got our most expensive ever player, and he doesn't seem to. Bar that one effort. Who we were playing? It was it not the Huddersfield game? It was Bolton, wasn't it? bar his one effort against Bolton, he doesn't look like he knows where the goal is, and that was not the instincts for me of a goal scorer or anybody who's got an ounce of confidence about the way he's playing at the moment. So yeah, it was a bad first half, and I at half time I was just thinking, well, maybe you'll no doubt you'll fire the line back at me from Mick, but it can't get any worse, can it? It's got to get better. And thankfully it did a little bit, not by much, but it did a little bit.
Yeah, I think it's safe to say that we were very lucky to go in at half time 0-0. Cast your eye onto those accurate passes, 100 passes, 64% accurate passing. One shot, one on target, 0.08 XG, no big chances. It was a sorry affair, and we were very lucky to go in at half time at 0-0.
Yeah, absolutely. Like Tim said, it did improve in the second half. He changed it a bit. Obviously, we've had injuries, so he's had to change it. When we kind of had that maybe 20, 25 minute spell at the end of the game, but even then, again, you look at the XG, you never really felt like, we were forcing corners and the like, but I don't know, you never really felt like we're creating a lot here, and it's coming. It's just when it's so poor, you kind of notice that improvement a bit more, if that makes sense. But it's still not great. And heaven only knows what we're going to do over for the Wymcombe game if a couple aren't fit. But overall, it's disappointing. Like I say, he did change it second half. We got a bit further forward, but it's slim pickings at the moment, isn't it? This must be the worst away record in I don't know when. In terms of, we're not even getting a point on the road, are we? It's really, really poor, and there's only so much you can do in that short space of time. So I'm not going to be too harsh on Dobbie, but I'd love to know as well, like, again, talking about the injuries, what our fitness levels actually are. Obviously, they'll have all the stats, so maybe they are where they need to be. I don't know, but it just doesn't look like it from watching in the stands. We look like we're first game back from pre-season, that sort of level, and it's just not where we thought we'd be after 12 or 13 games, is it? It's really, really poor and frustrating.
We look like a bunch of leggy League One donkeys, Tim. Bloxham coming on for Taylor, another player that's not fit. Bowler's not fit. A lot of them look like they're playing in treacle. But to be fair, like Nick said, we did have a bit more oomph in that second half. And probably the goal came against the run of play, I'd say. Another fabulous save by Ravizoli, diving to his right and tipping one over. And it's one of them, isn't it, where you reach into the stars while you're diving.
Great save, wasn't it? And I think the keepers like making saves like that, don't they? Because, it always shows them in their best light. He's very athletic. And generally, in relation to his handling, I like what I saw from him on Saturday, and I think he will no doubt a little bit like Horsfall feel somewhat hard done by that he's not been given the chance he probably deserves to cement his place. Will be interesting to see whether he keeps the shirt, because I think based on his overall performance on Saturday, he's arguably one of the few who come out with a degree of credit. I think he should keep the shirt. If you're going to be fair, if for want of better words, to the players in your squad, you've got the shirt and you play well, you should keep it.
So we just missed one of the key points. 46 minutes, not 1 minute after we've kicked off the second half, and then forced substitution. Another player going down, injured. Hayden Coulson getting pole-axed. It was just a weird coming together. They broke hand on the end. But has he done his arm or something? I can't remember what the reports were.
I've not seen anything, but I got him the way
He
he
got clattered, didn't he?
he's
Weirdly.
not. I can't. I think he might be out. I don't. He didn't get the impression to be fit for Saturday. Put it that way. But it's just like a cattle. You know, you could if you run off now all the players who are injured. It's basically you arguably you could say it's 2/3 of your starting 11, isn't it now? I just, I mean, I think we said we probably wouldn't have started Coulson anyway, would we, on Saturday? So he'd been perhaps one of the ones we'd have given a rest. But I think if I was going to play him, I would have preferred to see him play further up the pitch with Ashworth behind him. Which I think is how we perhaps picked the team, if I remember rightly. Yeah, he's another one who's going to be on. Whoever's our physio is going to be doing some decent overtime, aren't they, this month with all the work they've got on, just in time for Christmas.
Okay, let's discuss the goal then, Nick. Brilliant save by Ravizoli, and our old friend, the set piece goal, came back to bite us yet again, and yet again an easily preventable goal, with no other than CJ Hamilton in the key position to clear a header on your own 6-yard box. What the F is he doing in there in that situation?
Yeah, like you say, ball over to the far post, which we'd seen quite a lot in the first half as well, and then kind of headed back over, and CJ just kind of was flat-footed, wasn't he? Didn't seem to know what to do, and the guys had pretty much a free header to head it past Ravizoli.
Should Ravizoli have come for it, rooted to his line?
I've only seen the replay once, possibly, but he's maybe thinking one of the, CJ or one of the defenders is going to get something on it and do their job. So maybe, but I wouldn't put the blame at Ravizoli's door, really. But it's the story of the season, isn't it? Again, conceding goals. I don't know what the stat is for conceding goals from set pieces, but I'm guessing we're down at the bottom of the league in that, like we are in most of the stats, and we've seen it time and time again. So it shouldn't be a massive surprise that we saw it on Saturday.
Tim, your thoughts on the goal?
Yeah, I don't. To be fair, I don't know. I don't think Casey covers himself in glory in that scenario either.
There's 3 Blackpool players and 1 Stockport.
No, nobody's attacked the ball, have they? And CJ's the probably the most obvious culprit, because he doesn't even, listen. You're defending a corner, you position yourself right. This is basics, isn't it? You position yourself right on the goal side of the defender. As the ball comes in, you jump. Because if you don't jump, you're going to have no chance of getting the ball. So really, to have both feet on the floor as that ball hits the head of the incoming striker, to not even have made a challenge is frankly, bordering on negligent as a footballer. But then I look at Casey and think, well, you're not in a great position either, and it's just it just looks like we don't know what we're doing. And that the famous chant from the terraces towards the ref could probably be targeted at our players at the moment. And now, whether that's their fault or whether it's the management's fault for not spending enough time on the training pitch with them, working through, you hear all sorts of rumours, and it's difficult to sort of to say too much on the podcast, because you don't know what's true and what isn't. But there seems to be a consistent theme. We heard, I'm not going to say the one I heard on Saturday, which was shocking because it dropped somebody in it. But there is, there's a common theme of information, little bits of tidbits that come out that say we don't train enough, we don't do enough on set plays, the players are unfit, the manager isn't there, and there's a lack of direction. But, this seems to be supported by what we're seeing on the pitch, doesn't it? Because we don't seem to have any direction. We don't seem to be fit. We don't seem to know what we're doing. We don't seem to be able to find people. There's no pattern of play. We're not creating chances. And, the managers, this XG, how much store you put by it is telling you what you're doing on the pitch. And every single game, our XG is shocking. And it must be off the scale at the bottom of League One. I mean, I can't imagine anybody's anywhere near it. And I'd include Peterborough in that. I can't believe that other teams are creating as a few chances as we are. But it's what you see every game, isn't it? You know, last home game, we had one shot in the second half towards the north, one shot from Bowler, and that was the sum total in 45 minutes in a home game. And it's every there's slight improvement in the last 15 minutes on Saturday, but it's what we get every single week. And nothing seems to be done about it. We just seem to carry on doing the same things.
You've got to.
Straight with Dobbie, because Dobbie should have shifted it around because he had a free hit. He had a free hit on Saturday, and I just don't know why. You know, I don't know why he didn't do it. Now, whether he feels that, you know, he's got to play certain players, I don't know. You know, I think he brings Lyons in, who I thought did okay. But other than that, he's made one massive tactical cock up over Brown. And he had a great opportunity to change the shape and bring Horsfall in. He's not done it.
Someone said he's bottled it in the chat, and I agree. Should have put three in midfield. Should have matched them. Should have put Brown on in there.
With a lack of form,
it's just a no-brainer.
It was the obvious. You know, it actually fitted in with the players that we had. The best. If you're looking at who you view to be your best available players, that massively suited.
Coulson as a left wing back as well.
Mm.
You could have played Coulson as a left wing back in that system, favoured position.
Exactly. And Lyons can do exactly the same on the other side. Bowler would have probably been the full guy, wouldn't he? But Bowler or CJ. But let's get it right. Neither of them. You know, CJ's had his 1 in 10 decent performance, hasn't he? A couple of weeks back. But you know, that aside, you know, he's had a pretty poor season, and Bowler's not even started. So you only have to drop one of them to accommodate that shift in shape. And we knew that they were going to be a 3, and we know that they want to let Norwood ping the ball about, and for the first hour we've just let them do it.
Some people were saying it's like Stockholm syndrome with Dobbie setting up like that and playing that team. Well, like he's not done himself any favours for me, and he's put off a lot of Blackpool fans I know from getting the job permanently with what he did there.
Well, you know, it's one game, isn't it? Whether he's under consideration or not, we don't know. You know, I'd imagine there's interviews taking place probably this week. But yeah, I mean, he's probably not done himself any favours with it. Well, I suppose we'll see on. I know we're playing tomorrow night, but I'm to be honest, I hope he just plays the youth team tomorrow night, because although we've got a few who could probably do with minutes for the first team, I'm just so worried about getting any more injuries. We probably need to wrap them in cotton wool, don't we, and make sure we can put, you know, 11 out on Saturday. So I'd probably play the youth team tomorrow night and see who's available for Saturday, and it'll just be interesting to see what he does, because if it's the same starting 11, well, obviously we've got injuries, so it won't be Taylor, but I'm talking, you know, 4-4-2 there or thereabouts with Brown on the bench. It's just another game gone by where we've wasted an opportunity. You know, you gave those stats at the start of how far we are off the playoff places. They're a distant dream. We're in a relegation battle at the moment, so we'll see, unless they appoint someone this week. But even then, they've got no time really to implement anything, have they? But yeah, it was really weird, and I do think it's a massive missed opportunity just to try something different. Like Tim said, if it didn't work, fair enough. We know it doesn't work.
Yeah, it was a free hit. It was a free hit, wasn't it?
Yeah, and how much the fitness of the players is the issue rather than the system. Then at least if you try another system, at least you'd have an idea then, wouldn't you? So yeah, well, I suppose we'll see on Saturday, won't we?
Yeah. Tim, things seem to improve on 70 minutes. They're too late after they've gone ahead. Brown came on for Bowler, and Hansen for Fletcher on 78 minutes, and we looked more of an attacking threat and a bit more composed when that happened. It looked like a formation change, almost a 4-3-3 when we changed to that.
Well, yeah,
and
we
played with more purpose.
matched them in midfield then, didn't we? So and
It was a different game.
We had a
from
player
then on.
we had a player on the pitch who would naturally gravitate towards stopping Norwood play. So for me, it was the obvious. That just reinforced the point about what a bad decision it was not to start like that, because all the warning signs were there. But yeah, it got better. I think it's fair to say that we still can't hit a barn door.
Yeah.
But we were at least creating chances, and you're looking at the second half stats. There are a lot better. So I got it wrong before. I didn't say about the XG. That was 0.8. It was for the first half, not the whole game. But it's still not great in relation to goal scoring chances. But we've had a decent amount of possession. We've had a decent number of shots. I think some of those shots, describing some of our shots as shots, is probably...
We didn't test the keeper all game, really, did we? Even in this spell, we didn't test the keeper.
I can't remember the keeper making one save unless I may have fallen asleep at one point and missed a shot at goal, but I don't remember ever going... the shots, I think we're being a bit creative. If we say we've had eight shots, I think we've hit the ball towards the goal on 8 occasions, I think is probably a fairer description. But listen, that aside, we've had, you can see there, a decent number of corners. Our pass accuracy has gone up from what it was in the first half. It looks better, doesn't it? It looks like we're actually trying to participate in a game of football rather than just roll over and have our tummy tickled.
Yeah. Lee Evans, let's talk about him for a brief second. He was unlucky with that diving header, long range shot. He was a bit low. I don't know. He came in for a bit of unnecessary stick for me. I don't know if I remember people kept hearing that stupid, sarcastic Lee Evans shout all game. It was just getting annoying after a while. And I thought he had a half decent game, and I think he looked a hell of a lot better in a 3. But the point I think that Tim made, Nick, there is, why can't we do this all game? It's been a theme of the whole season, really, hasn't it? A bit of a spell, 20 minutes here, 25 minutes here, 15 here. And we're just constantly giving up entire halves of games of football. And it's just not good. It's not good enough. And finally, there was a complete lack of composure in front of goal and just a huge lack of quality for me in the final third.
Yeah, like I say, even when it's better, it's still not great. And, I didn't really think, right, there's a goal coming here. And it's almost like we have to get to that point where we're getting desperate and have to have a bit of a go because we're losing games of football, rather than this is our plan from the start, this is the system, and try and impose ourselves on teams. It's like Tim says, it's just lying over and giving teams their easiest game of the season most of the time, where it's pretty much a routine win for every home team every time we play them. And I don't know if the plans will try and keep it tight for an hour. And all right, it was 0-0 for an hour, but again, some better finishing. You look at those couple of chances for Lowe, particularly that header in the first few minutes, we should be hitting the target there. We could easily have been a couple down after a quarter of an hour. So it's not like the plan's particularly working, that it's solid. And we know that, sometimes Critch would do it in the Championship first time round away from home. We'd kind of set up and we'd hit teams on the break. And it's not like that. It's just you're thinking there's a goal coming. It's wave after wave. And we seem to be hanging on. And yeah, they probably were towards the end of it, but it's still nowhere where we need to be for me.
So yeah, full-time whistle went, and I thought it was very strange that they were given a hero's reception off the pitch by quite a large bunch of people. I thought that was a bit odd. All right, give them a bit of a clap for 20 minutes of effort, but to get the reception they got, I think was a bit weird. I certainly wasn't.
Undeserved, I think.
Undeserved. I don't know anyone else thought. That's just what I thought as I was leaving the ground.
Well, I remember I was walking up the steps. We were walking out, and I think I said something to Nick to that effect. I think I said, "I'm not clapping that," because it did seem a bit OTT.
It was like we'd won the game. The reaction from some odd.
Yeah. So listen, each to their own. But for me, it didn't deserve that. So, but and maybe it's because Dobbie's manager and people want just to show a bit more encouragement. I don't know.
Okay, that was the game then. Let's move on to the player ratings segment. Nick, you can start with the keeper. Franco Mavisoli.
He had a pretty decent game overall. Made that good save from the free kick, which he's probably seen late round the wall in the first half, and the great save where he's tipped it over in the second. So overall, I'll go 7+.
Tim, you can do Hayden Coulson and Zach Ashworth, half each, pretty much.
I think Coulson 6, Ashworth 6+.
Slight improvement, wasn't there? Ollie Casey, Nick, perhaps half culpable for the goal. But having CJ next year can't inspire him with confidence, can it?
No, and again, other than that, I thought both centre halves were pretty steady. I'll go 6+ and 7 if you wanted me to do both of them.
Yeah, let's get it out of the way. Tim, Andy Lyons.
6+.
CJ, Nick, we've said enough about that goal. How did his overall game go? It was like he wasn't there for the vast majority of it.
Yeah, I'd go, I don't even know if 5's too generous, to be honest. 4+.
Albie Morgan, Tim, 7.3 there on Pot Mob. I read a good point in the comments somewhere that his game's been ruined by being played in this system.
Yeah, and he's not the player he was last year at the moment, is he? And there seems to be a lot of misplaced passes. A lot of his forward passes, I thought on Saturday, were quite a way off, weren't they? I know I seem to remember he was trying to play one out left in the first half, and it ended up basically just playing it through to the keeper. It was way off. But I think it's right what he said in the comments. He's better. He's got a little bit more license to push forward, and he's got somebody behind him who can do the mopping up work. But he wasn't great on Saturday. 6.
Tim, Lee Evans, a lot of people hating on him at the moment. How do you think he played? Nick. Sorry, Nick.
I thought you meant Nick.
Yeah, there was a moment in the first half where he tried one of his Hollywood passes, and it ended up with them getting a very good chance from it. And he does try and do that too much. He had a couple of chances himself in the second half. 6+.
Yeah, looking around 5, 6, yeah. Right, Tim, Josh Bowler, an absolute shadow of his former self. A luxury player at the moment. Might as well not be on the pitch for the vast majority of it.
He's a luxury player. It's like luxury chocolate that's gone past its sell-by date. It ain't nice,
He's lost his USP, that's for sure.
Yeah, it was a bar the one move where he put Taylor through. I can't remember him doing anything positive in the game at any point. 3.
Nick, Dale Taylor, fluffed one chance, didn't do much else. So, and injured off on 35 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, we talk about chances created, so you do have to factor that in for whoever's playing up front for us, because they're playing off scraps, aren't they? And it was a great first touch, actually, when he got played through to get himself sort of turn past the defender to free the ball up to make the space to get the shot away. That bit was brilliant, but then the shot was just really, really poor. And like you say, didn't really do much else other than that. 4.
So you do Tom Bloxham as well, because he played a lot more. So it's 65 minutes.
He did, yeah. I mean, he's hopefully some point going to get up to, if not full fitness, but not looking like he's completely knackered straight away.
Did he look any fitter? I think he did to me. He looked a bit more mobile than previous game.
Yeah, again, it's a low bar though, isn't it? Like a lot of things we talk about, it's almost like, well, that's not quite as crap as it was in the last game. 6.
That's as good as we're getting, aren't we, at the moment? Not quite as crap as the last game.
You've got to laugh.
That's what it's like being a Blackpool fan at the moment. Not quite as crap as the last game. Right, Tim.
Fletcher.
Ash Fletcher. One goal Fletcher. He's reverted to type, hasn't he?
Yeah, he's definitely the Fletcher from the first half of the season, and a poor version of that rather than the second half. I can't think of anything positive to say really, which is it's bad, isn't it? 5. Not as bad as Bowler.
Let's have a man of the match for the lols. Tim, you go.
Isn't it? Based on the scores we've just done, I'd probably say the keeper.
Yeah.
A ravioli, as Chizzy calls him.
Does he actually go?
Apparently, I didn't hear it personally, but I was told that I think somebody was saying it on the podcast group. What say? He just called him ravioli.
Why does that not surprise me? We're all in agreement there then. 2 top draw saves, and it's got to be hard coming into a team like this and having not played a league game all season. So, yeah. Well done, Franco. Finally, manager rating. Did he blow it, Tim?
He did, unfortunately. I think he failed the audition. Is I think is a good analogy. Listen, I did genuinely think he would have shake things up, and when we did do it, it was really too little, too late, and we could have got something out of that last 15, 20 minutes, quite possibly, but we should have been starting like that. And listen, we're not professionals, but it was bloody obvious what we needed to do on Saturday, and I just don't know why I didn't. So it's a 5 from me.
Nick, we said on that preview show, everyone's been talking about all week, that we just wanted a performance, so we wanted to see an attacking intent. We'd have accepted defeat had that happened. He didn't do it. He didn't go for it. He didn't make changes. for that reason, he deserves a small score for me, and I'd personally give him a 4. How about yourself?
I think I'd go with what Tim said. I think the second half was better. How much of that was through necessity of what's happened with injuries, and how much of it was, well, this is what I was going to do anyway. We'll never know. But I'll go 5 with a hope that it's a bit of a lesson learned, and we do see something different from the start. For, like I said, I'm not too bothered about the Forest under 21s, but certainly for Wymcombe on Saturday, with albeit limited options, with the more injuries we've picked up. I don't know whether 1 or 2 are going to be back. I saw something to suggest Banks might be. So fingers crossed there, because we were talking on the way back about what do you do now for striking options. Just I don't
Get Billy
know.
waiting. Get Billy waiting. Get him on.
Centre half up front to hold the ball up. I don't know. We'll see, won't we? But yeah, I'd go 5 overall, and hopefully it's something different for Saturday.
Okay, let's move on to the managerial situation at the moment. We've talked about Evo. We've talked about Richie Wellens. We've talked about Dobbie. We know what they're all like. So 2 names that have shot up to the top of odds checker today. Matt Bloomfield's gone 5-2 on, and Liam Richardson has gone up to 2-1 behind Evo. 4-1. Charlie Adam 5-1. Richie Wellens 5-1. He's gone out. Luton have appointed Jack Wilshere today, so that muddies the waters somewhat there, Tim, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think the problem for anybody, and Luton have obviously formed the same view as well, is that if you want Wellens, there's a, as we understand it, a fairly significant release clause, isn't there? Circa £1 million. I don't think Nixon's too far off with it, from what I've heard. And that's a big ask for a League One club, unless you money bags, the sort of Birminghams and Wrexhams from last season. I also think that obviously that betting market moves if any, significantly, if there's just a twitch. That the rumor was going around today was that I think that Bloomfield was being interviewed, and which he quite possibly might have been. I think there's quite a few prospective managers being interviewed. And obviously that then brings the odds right in, because somebody puts 50 quid on it or whatever, maybe somebody, or somebody's got the intel and thinks he's in the building because he's getting the job, and it might not be the case. So I think other prospective managers were interviewed, or at least one I know of was interviewed last week. And there may be others that I don't know of and that we don't know of who are still to be interviewed or already have been interviewed and are in the frame. Most of the managers we sign tend to come in from left field, don't they? So, but the Matt Bloomfield one is interesting. Obviously, he's only just come free from Luton, where he started quite poorly this year. But as you were correcting me in the green room, John, he did have a remarkably good record at Wymcombe, and seems to have taken the hit because of a change in ownership, or a change in who was actually supervising the club, who seems to have taken a dislike to him and ultimately got rid of him, even though his stats were incredible, really, when you look at it for the period that he was their manager. So I think you might want to add in, John, about what you've heard, which all sounded quite positive in relation to his style of management. But it's interesting that we aren't necessarily talking about somebody who's played for us before, who's been manager for us before, or whatever it might be, because we do seem to follow a very tried and tested role with our managerial appointments, probably with Bruce and McCarthy, who've ultimately been quite catastrophic aside. We've and Critchley first time round, there's a pattern generally, isn't there, that there tends to be a prior link or a link to with Bruce it was a link to Downs, wasn't it? So if we do go slightly off-piste, that's probably a good idea.
Although he has got a link to Blackpool, hasn't he, in his name?
Well, true. So yes, there'll be some puns on that, no doubt, if he does get the job.
Signing based on that.
Yeah.
So just the research that I've done, brief as it was, deep roots in lower league football. That's a plus. We are in the lower leagues. He's operated as a manager, apart from at Luton, and as a player for that entire time. He's a one club man. Loyalty. Don't see that very often, do you, as a player? And I've just been looking up his style of play, and it says he's an attack-minded and adaptable manager focusing on possession with purpose, which piqued my interest. Obviously, we had possession for possession's sake under Neil Critchley. He looks for territorial domination, quick transitions, and high-intensity press, which is what we all want. He favours flexible formations, 4-3-3, 4-2-3-1, overlapping fullbacks, wingers. And as Tim was slagging off his Wymcombe record in the green room, as he just mentioned them, I did correct him. 48% win percentage at Wymcombe. He did a really good firefighting job at Colchester in the doldrums of League Two, got them out of it. Brilliant run at Wymcombe Wanderers, 2 Manager of the Month awards on a row. 52 played 108, 52 wins, 24 draws, 32 losses, win percentage of 48%, overall win percentage of 43%. Nick, it's not to be sniffed at, that, is it? And if the events at Luton hadn't happened, maybe he'd been on to a successful managerial career. and he's a name that got instantly rebuked by a lot of people, and I think he is a real contender and one we should be considering.
I certainly think he's in the conversation, yeah. And like you say, if you look at what he's done at Wymcombe, he did really, really well there. Obviously, hasn't worked out at Luton. And I wouldn't be against it. I think of the names we've mentioned there, like you say, with Welland, it's a heck of a lot of money to shell out before you've even, talked about bringing any other coaches in with him and anything. And it's a hell of a lot of money. And I don't see it happening if it is anything like the figures being quoted. And there's maybe something to be said for it not being someone who's previous, like Tim said, has previously played for us or managed us before. I think I'd probably put him ahead of Liam Richardson for me, certainly looking at win percentages. So yeah, we will see. Beyond that, we just don't know, do we? Like with last time, Steve Bruce hadn't even appeared on any list at all, had he? So there could be somebody completely different who we haven't heard of in contention. And again, like Tim said at the start, it's such a niche market, the betting for a Blackpool manager, that it's only really Blackpool fans betting on it, and 20 or 30 quid here or there, a rumour here or there, can massively influence the odds. But if he has been interviewed and is being interviewed, then I don't think I'd be against it.
Just to compare with Liam Richardson, I just got his stats up. His win percentage is 35% over 177 games. Although, to be fair, I think he's been parachuted in as caretaker on a number of occasions. And although actually they're on a couple of games, so that shouldn't influence. His main managerial, as most of us know, at Wigan actually isn't that bad. It's 41.88 at Wigan.
Yeah. It's very good, Tim, considering when he took Wigan were in complete disarray at that time as well. He worked under Paul Cook. Paul Cook left, I think, went to Ipswich, didn't he? And then he got offered the job on a temporary basis, and then he told Paul Cook he didn't want to go with him, and so they give him the actual job. And do you not remember when Wigan were in absolute turmoil, administration, bad owners, and he steadied them during that period and took them up as champions. Let's not forget that they went up as champions of League One. Yeah, it's the championship, and like you say,
it's Rotherham. It's the Rotherham that pulls him down a bit.
I wonder what happened there.
Is
that after Steve Evans?
Win rate.
Yeah.
24 games, only won 2, drew 4, and lost 18.
That's good breed.
He comes in December and leaves in April. So he's, depending on, I can't remember what was going on at Rotherham at that time, but presumably they finished bottom of the championship, and maybe they just didn't have a good enough squad, and we're just getting caned every week. And we know what it's like, don't we? It's hard to get out of a rut sometimes. And if he's parachuted in, I've forgotten who he would have replaced. But it's, that's shockingly bad. That's almost like Blackpool this season bad.
Mm.
But sometimes you bring a new manager in and hope it works. But if the underlying problems are there and your squad isn't good enough, then you're not going to, are you? And the championship is very unforgiving.
I mean, Liam Richardson, he's served a good apprenticeship under Paul Cook, a good old, wily experienced manager. So that's in his favour as well. You look at his Wigan record and you'd say he's a contender, but something's obviously happened there at Rotherham for that disastrous record. I mean, can you employ a manager that's had that awful run?
Mm.
Maybe not.
Yeah, there's not a lot about the reason why, just that he was appointed on a 3.5-year deal. And then he gets sacked 2 weeks after relegation was confirmed. But that's all it really says. Yeah.
Let's talk about Evo then before we go. How do we think? How are we feeling about Evo?
What worries me more than anything else is he seems to be a bit Marmite amongst the fan base, probably more than any of the other managers that have been suggested. And this is just an observation. If you look on the forum, if you look on Facebook, there seems to be a lot of people dead set against him, and I'm not quite sure why, because he cut his teeth at Barrow and got them into the league. And I went up there for pre-season, and they were playing a very sort of Holloway style of football with the diagonals and playing off the second ball. It was great to watch. And I don't know anybody else went up to Barrow. This will be in summer of 2019, just after Simon took over. And we were incredibly lucky to come away with a win from that. It was only pre-season friendly goals, but we were incredibly lucky to come away from a win. And they were still non-league at the time. And they got promoted at the end, as I recall, at the end of that season. And, he was being lauded about how they were playing. And then he goes to Bolton. And yes, they were a huge fish in a small pond in League Two, but he was still turning the oil tank around because they were a car crash. And he gets them promoted. He gets them to the whatever it was called then, the cup, the secondary cup. It doesn't change its name every year, doesn't it?
Look at that win percentage there, Tim. 50% win rate at 5 years at Bolton. That's impressive.
And they got to a playoff final. I think he nearly got. I don't think he got in the playoffs the second year and didn't get to the final, but they got to the playoff final and just missed out. And then, so if he'd gone up into the championship, it'd have been an incredible record. And sometimes it is on, it's just on the luck of the draw in those type of games, isn't it? So, he does. He does. This is why we go to Bolton away and we sing Everett's A and Everett's Tangerine, and then there's a load of adverse comments about it. I don't quite get it.
It's like what Big Dog said. It's because of the Grice Reaper, isn't it? He really didn't want him, did he?
I mean, you hear he comes with some baggage, and that's, but people have, you can be a great manager whilst having, issues. We all have issues. You might have issues because you're getting divorced, or whatever it might be, or unsettled family. There could be all sorts of things that can affect a manager. But these perceived issues that Everett has, he's had them since he played for us.
You don't give it at the end of the day. You don't give a shit about the personal life as long as they get you playing attractive, effective, successful football. So, but
he's for me. He comes, he's articulate. He's played as part of our most successful team. He knows how we tick. So that there should be a lot of positives there. Even though obviously it's this thing. Well, can we get away from people? It's more we've employed managers who've managed us before, as distinct from going to people who've played for us before, isn't it? Recently, I don't think have we had anybody who's played? Grayson played for us a little bit, didn't he, towards the end of his career? But he wasn't. I wouldn't call him a Blackpool player as such. But yeah, I don't get the anti Evo vibe, because his stats are incredible.
Okay, let's close off then by giving our 1, 2, 3. Each panelist can give who you want first, second, or third. So, Nick, who would you take first? If all options are on the table out of the names we've been talking about.
If all options are on the table,
1, 2, 3. Gives you 1, 2, 3.
I'd probably go the ones we just talked about.
Anyone sort of mentioned in and around the conversation.
Welland's, Bloomfield, Evo.
Exactly the same for me, Tim. Welland's, Bloomfield, and Everett. I'd be happy with any of them three.
I would be happy any of those three. I would. Bloomfield's the wild card, a little bit, isn't he? And I think we could discount Welland's completely anyway. So I think we're really talking Bloomfield. It'll be Bloomfield, maybe Richardson or Everett. And I think of those three, I'd probably, it's touch and go. It's 50-50 for me with Everett and Bloomfield at the top. With Richardson, I'm just, the jury's out a little bit, but that Wigan record is really good. So it can't get any worse, can it? Oh, sorry, phone just dropped.
That was actually a good mic drop moment, Tim.
Bang on an hour.
Yeah, a good way to end the
gavel coming down.
Right, I think we'll leave it there anyway on that mic drop moment, and we are on an hour, so we'll leave it there. Thanks everybody for joining us in the stream. Great to have your comments coming in as ever. Do like and subscribe if you want to join our Patreon sports program. Please consider joining patreon.com/CSandersPod. You get access to our WhatsApp group, our Pool Predictions League, and ad-free and early access mastered audio podcasts. All that remains to be said is thanks for watching, everybody. Thanks for downloading. And it can't get any worse.
It can.
Up the pool.
Up the pool.
Been involved in 2. Can he make 3? Not on this occasion. Well taken by Walsh. Davis is on the far side. Ainscough coming square. That's the ball. That's a good try! What a goal! Oh!